Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Nut. Welcome to the channel. This is Layer 4 and Episode 4 of the Trading Card Controversies Iceberg. I'm going to assume if you have made it this far in the series, you understand the basic premise behind these videos, so we won't get into any of the backstory. Let's get to it. Kicking off Layer 4 is CD Lamb Leaf Autographs. In 2022, Leaf Trading Cards filed a suit against CD Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys after he failed to return a number of on-card autographs that were to be signed and included in the company's upcoming metal set. Now, Leaf's suit was predicated on the fact that CD's failure to return these cards not only caused them a significant loss of income, but also a significant loss of goodwill with their consumer base. And as it so happens, this failure to sign the cards was actually a breach of contract on CD's part. Now, this issue was resolved in extremely short order as news of the lawsuit broke on Tuesday, and by Wednesday, evidently all of these signed cards were either shipped off or were already back at Leaf and ready to be included in their upcoming release.
Here we've got the short-lived Dibs Marketplace.
The Dibs Marketplace launched in 2021 as yet another one of these investor-driven marketplace, vault, and fractional ownership kind of platforms. Now, some notable investors of this specific platform were Chris Paul, Chris Bryant, Kevin Love, DeAndre Hopkins, Nat Turner, Jeff Wilson, and even Amazon. Now, as of 2023, the Dibs marketplace has actually been shut down, and they are working on this new kind of tokenization as a service model, which honestly just kind of sounds like a bunch of crypto mumbo jumbo. Now, immediately after the closure announcement, Dibs did release a statement, and they did email personally every individual that had invested in cards on their fractional ownership platform, basically offering to repurchase these shares at an adjusted rate. Many collectors felt that these adjusted rates were just far too low and that they did not accurately reflect the value of the cards that they had invested in, but realistically, these were cards that probably did take a large hit over the past few months as the card market as a whole has kind of regressed. Now, the controversy was not in actually how much individuals were getting paid, it was actually in getting paid. Just a day after announcing their closure, Dibs also mentioned via a tweet that their payment provider, Circle, would be halting all payments to and from the company. So this basically gave individuals that had received these offers for payouts 2 full days to accept them, and if not, their money would basically be stuck in limbo for the time being. And for certain individuals, this was maybe $10, $15, $20, but for certain collectors, it could be tens of thousands of dollars. Now, this did just recently happen, so there is still a lot coming to light, but it does currently seem like Dibs was able to get most of their investors paid. However, if you scroll through their Twitter, you can occasionally see a disgruntled customer or two claiming that Dibs has scammed them and that they are still owed money. So it's definitely still worth looking into, and this just goes to show how many marketplaces have popped up in the past few years. You're going to see another, maybe 1 or 2 more actually entries about a marketplace or two that has folded. So yeah, let's continue on.
Next up, the Panini Redemption Lawsuit.
What is a redemption? Now, aside from being a ticket to a 6-month or more wait time from either Topps or Panini, you are being issued an IOU that is essentially saying, hey, sorry, we could not get this athlete's signature or this card returned in time for the product's release, but we'll get around to it eventually when we've got a little bit of free time. Topps seems to be a little bit more on top of their redemption program, whereas Panini is just a lost cause entirely. I actually found one example of an individual that as of 2022 has been waiting 7 years for a card to come back from the Panini redemption system, and that is just completely inexcusable, and rightfully Panini and Topps have both been the receiving end of numerous lawsuits from consumers. These suits are most often predicated on the breach of state lottery and consumer protection acts, and unfortunately they never really make it past mediation, but we appreciate these brave souls for standing up to the corporate giants all the same.
The dubious Whatnot repacks.
Repacks are a category of product that garner much controversy in and of themselves. They are often most simply a clever way for breakers or third parties to offload their common or unwanted cards while managing to pocket a few bucks. There's nothing inherently wrong with mystery packs or those who purchase them. The controversy does, however, arise when parties involved in producing or distributing the packs knowingly withhold information from the customers. Whatnot has recently implemented some rules specifically surrounding the sale of mystery packs on their platform, mainly that they remain within the view of the camera at all points in time. You can probably imagine why they had to implement a rule like this. Some breakers were caught engaging in some seedy behavior around the actual production, content, and distribution of these mystery packs. I will say for the most part, Whatnot repacks that are being sold by reputable sellers are mostly okay. You can stick around to see if the chase card that you and everyone else are hoping to pull is actually pulled, but with some of these third-party packs that you might find at, your local drugstore or at a Walmart or a Target, they're just not held to the same standards as, your Paninis or your Topses, so definitely avoid those guys at all costs.
Alrighty, buckle in for this ride that is about to be the PWCC stolen card sale scandal.
Back in 2014, an Italian collector named Enrico received some news that no collector ever wants to get. At the time of this story, Enrico had recently graded over 80 cards, many of which were part of the Upper Deck Exquisite collection, one of the most sought-after subsets ever produced. Enrico, being located in Italy, opted to have his cards graded via a Beckett group submitter. You can probably guess how the rest of this story goes. Enrico received the package, and contained inside was a condenser microphone, a far cry from the thousands of dollars worth of cards he was expecting. He quickly made the call to the group submitter, Show Rob, letting him know that the contents of the package were either lost or stolen, and immediately Enrico posted a list of the missing cards to Blowout Cards, and shockingly, after 3 months, 61 of the 79 stolen cards were actually located at a government surplus auction of all places. As Show Rob had filed a police report, the cards were indeed able to be reunited with Enrico, who this time decided to book a trip to the US to pick up the cards that he had sent off so many months ago. Unfortunately, 18 of the cards, however, could still not be located at this time, chief among them the 2009 Upper Deck Exquisite Michael Jordan patch auto, the 2009 Exquisite Collection Bill Russell autograph, the 2003 Signature Series Dennis Rodman autograph, the 2007 Upper Deck Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman dual autograph, and finally the 2004 Upper Deck Exquisite Collection Kobe Bryant limited logos. These 5 cards would go unseen for years, 8 years to be exact, and all 5 would eventually turn up, 3 of which were purchased by an individual known as Raphael Mosley, who happens to be an extremely prominent sports card collector known on Instagram as Prism God. I feel like such a loser that those 2 words just came out of my mouth. But these are the 3 cards that he wound up in possession of. First, the 2009 Upper Deck Exquisite Michael Jordan patch autograph, for which he attained a loan from Investacard for, the 2009 Upper Deck Exquisite Collection Bill Russell autograph that he sold promptly, and finally the 2003 Upper Deck Dennis Rodman autograph that he also sold to another private collector. Now, this is all just some fun exposition because the main bulk of this story actually concerns what occurred with the following 2 cards, the Upper Deck Exquisite Michael Jordan Dennis Rodman dual autograph, as well as the Upper Deck Exquisite Collection Kobe Bryant limited logos card. These cards actually ended up being listed and later sold on the PWCC marketplace. Immediately after these cards were sold, collectors did take to the forums to air their grievances with PWCC. Now, this is where the majority of collectors would kind of convene and converse prior to the advent of social media such as Instagram and Twitter. Quickly, PWCC realized this was a far bigger deal than they had initially thought, and all records of these auctions were actually scrubbed from the website. The reason that this case is so crazy is because a massive multi-million-dollar operation whose main goal is to provide collectors transparency and peace of mind, specifically when purchasing these extremely expensive cards, had totally failed to uphold their values, nearly pawning off hot goods on their customers.
Here we've got the Vintage Breaks Pack Swap.
Vintage Pack Breaks is a popular online breaker that opens primarily, you guessed it, vintage packs. In 2022, it was discovered that one of the employees of Vintage Pack Breaks had swapped a pack during a live break, essentially replacing the pack that had been purchased by a customer with one of unknown origin. In the footage playing now, you'll notice that the breaker moves the pack off screen for just long enough to swap it. It would seem that trading card hobbyists are extremely observant between this and all of the altered card scandals, because somehow they managed to pick out the differences between the pack that was on screen initially and the one that wound up being opened. After being called out, the Breaker conjured up one of the absolute worst cover stories of all time. He said that this pack did not look visually appealing enough, it looked damaged, so he wanted to swap it out for one that was a little bit more appealing to the eye for his room full of virtual viewers. With that admission comes obviously the acknowledgement that the pack was switched out, so Vintage Pack Breaks did decide that they would open the pack that was on stream originally. And to no one's surprise, they opened a pack that actually still was not the pack that should have been opened rightfully. So we just have absolutely no idea what is going on here with this debacle. Vintage Breaks came out and basically apologized for the whole thing on behalf of the Breaker and the company themselves, saying that this was not normal procedure. And, you know, otherwise, to this point, Vintage Pack Breaks had never really had many controversies, so this was definitely a dark mar on, like I said, an otherwise reputable organization. But it just goes to show you how the popularity of breaking can definitely bring out the worst in some people.
1977 Topps C3PO.
While the 1989 Fleer Bailey Ripken may be one of, if not the most well-known mass-produced error cards out there, the 1977 Topps C3PO certainly stands out the most.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
As detailed by Gary Girani, a former Topps employee and a key figure in the creation of the Star Wars sets, this photograph was actually taken while filming A New Hope, whereas a lot of the photographs for cards were actually taken during auxiliary photo shoots separate from the actual filming. So it's pretty funny to think what had to happen for this card to be created. Evidently the actors were having some fun and, you know, just fooling about. So lo and behold, we have this iconic card now, which is actually more common than the uncensored version that was later released by Topps, and it is also, as you can probably imagine, far more expensive.
That was episode 4 of the Trading Card Controversies Iceberg. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in, whether this is your first episode in the series or you are a returning viewer. And I do want to apologize for the wait between this episode and the last. I'm going to be back and producing content a little bit more regularly, so that won't be a problem with this episode and the next 2 or 3 that are going to be coming out. So if you guys do like trading card content like this, if you like grading reveals, all that good stuff, be sure to like and subscribe. I've got a whole bunch more content that's going to be coming out relatively soon. I've got a big old grading order that's going to be coming back, 80-some cards, soccer, football, baseball. So like I said, like and subscribe. We're going to be putting out a lot of good content, and thank you as always for watching. Take care.